okay, number 5, who actually has NFL starting tools that I think might be able to turn it into something? And I went with Jalen Milroe from Alabama.
All right. I considered Milroe here. I put Milroe at 6. So let's just have our Jalen Milroe discussion here first. So what did you like about Milroe, and why did he end up at 5 here for you?
So obviously, I mean, he's an exceptional athlete. Like, he's big, strong, fast. His arm is legit. He ran a 4.4 something with an insane, like he ran the 4.4 at his pro day, but apparently his 10 split was like 1.44, which is off the charts elite for, like, that's Tank Dell levels of, 10-yard split time. Like, that's lightning acceleration in addition to the speed. He's got extremely good escapability. Like Shador, Jackson Dart, like, these are guys that struggle to get out of things. Jalen Milroe's very good at getting away from pressure and problems and, elite pass rushers that are bearing down on him. That's like a real strength of his. He can extend plays, escape trouble, like really lean on that athleticism. Obviously, we have the weird quirk of his hand size, which at the Senior Bowl was wildly small and under the threshold. And then at the Combine was like, no, actually, it's fine.
Did we get, what was he at the Combine? Did we update that to 9? It's
the
like a
Combine was way above 9. It was like he grew his hand like 7/8 of an inch or something.
By the way, Will Campbell did make it over 33 inches while we're here. Breaking news, Will Campbell is a tackle now, 33-inch arms at his pro day today. So, yeah, it's a legendary offseason of, growing hand size and arm length. QB School says, ooh, we're in the similar ballpark, 1-4. Go follow QB School on YouTube. JT O'Sullivan, he's the man. Watch his videos, do his Patreon, do the whole thing.
So the other thing, now here's the thing. Here's where it gets problematic, right? Because you're always conditioned by like what's recent history like. So I don't love Jalen Milroe's tape, right? I think there's some problems. There's some wild inconsistency. The accuracy can be very rough at times. But now, so number 1, I didn't love Jalen Hurts' tape, right? I didn't think he had any shot of working out based off his tape, and he's ended up actually becoming a really good NFL quarterback. Also, Milroe's working with Jordan Palmer, one of these QB gurus. Now, Jordan's got, let's say, it's a mixed bag of results so far based off the quarterbacks that have worked with him, right? You can't give him credit for Sam Darnold because that took Kevin O'Connell basically to fix Darnold, right? You can't give him credit for that, but he did have Josh Allen. Like, you can argue Jordan Palmer's the guy that fixed Josh Allen. But, and he worked with, I think, Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence and some of these other guys that you would say, those are good. Those are hits. On the other hand, we've got, Kyle Allen and Jarrett Stidham and Drew Lock and, some other quarterbacks that haven't worked out that well. But generally, I would say
he's got the same hit rate as all of us as far as,
right.
turning them
But generally, I would say it's a good thing that Milroe has like connected himself to one of these sort of personal coach QB guru types because he does have a lot to work on based off his college tape.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the Jalen Hurts comp before, just maybe a little bit of same school because Hurts was Alabama, obviously, before Oklahoma. I don't see any similarities there.
No, not similar, other than the fact that their QBs didn't like you had athletic tools and then worked out.
Yeah, and so, like I said at the top of the show, if you go through all the data points and say, well, what leads to the good quarterbacks? I mean, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in PFF accuracy charting data were awful, right, at the time. And Allen had awful PFF grade. I mean, if you start doing comps and certain stats, you're going to have great quarterbacks looking terrible in the college stats, and you'll say, oh, he's just like this guy. It's just nothing's 1-to-1. To me, I go back to this Milroe. The athleticism is so special. You could build a running offense around him. So This is why I say the difference between him and the Kyle McCords, Will Howards, and these other guys we're going to talk about, it's like, what do you want in your developmental quarterback? If you're a coach that builds the run game around the quarterback, okay, Milroe has this foundation to work with. I always call that a high floor offense, even though Milroe's passing is anything but high floor. It is all over the place. And as watching him in passing through the years, it's like I didn't want to like him at all. Then I started to like him more than I thought I would. Georgia game, Vanderbilt game, even though they lost. And then you have these other games where he's awful, and it's just so inconsistent. So I think it's a high floor potential just because Milroe could have the game I always describe as the JT Barrett game. You go 10 for 24 passing, but you add 80 yards on the ground on like 20 carries, and it actually moves the ball. Milroe, you could build an offense around him. He can protect your offensive line because of his running ability. I know Bama had him running like 4.37. You're right. It was more like 4.4s. It's legit, right? This is the same stuff we would have said about Lamar. He's not as good as Lamar. Similar stuff that we would have said about Anthony Richardson, which is probably a better comp, right? Anthony Richardson. And I don't care about Richardson's size. That part doesn't matter. His RAS doesn't matter. Don't even mention it. Similar athleticism, build your offense around them, but the accuracy is just all over the place, and that needs to get better to actually reach that potential.
All right, that's enough of that, Steve. Over 50% of the people listening to this are not subscribed right now. So click that button, and then we can get back to whatever it is Steve's telling you about. And another reason I think Richardson is a good comp for him is, like Richardson, I think he does read it out pretty well. Like a lot of the times we think of these quarterbacks who are athletic freaks and not particularly good passers, we assume it's like a mental problem, right? They're just bad at reading defenses. That's what you'll hear all the time when you hear these guys. Like, look at his numbers, look at his athleticism. He's just a bad mental processor. He can't read a defense. It's all like Richardson was really good at that relative to his experience. His problems were he just can't hit the broadside of a barn door. Like, his accuracy is horrific. Milroe is of a similar bent where his problems I don't think are mental. His problems are it's mechanical. He can't accurately throw the ball consistently. I think he actually reads it out pretty well most of the time. And again, so number one, people will be like, well, what's the difference between him and Anthony Richardson? One big difference is where they're likely to go. Richardson was being talked about as a top 10 quarterback all the way along. Milroe is being talked about as a day 2, maybe even day 3 type of player, which again becomes an awful lot more palatable. It's like Trayvon Walker versus Shamar Stewart. Where you're talking about drafting them is massively relevant to how much you should like the guy. So Milroe, on day 2 or day 3, I'm all for rolling the dice and seeing if you can build something around this guy. I don't need to bring him in as the day 1 starter. Like, I don't need to saddle the franchise to him and hope he can work out like the way the Colts are suddenly in trouble because Richardson hasn't. I can bring him in as a clear backup, as a developmental 3, and see if we can make something happen. Like, see if a couple of years working with Jordan Palmer or, my QB coach can fix some of the inconsistency it is. And if we can, the athleticism and the strength, the tools are there for him to be a starter, because I think he is mentally reasonably far along. But it's a different conversation because I'm not talking about drafting him at 5 overall.
Well, let me get a little meta on you really quick here, because this is why I say, if you're an evaluator, you don't always want to learn from your mistakes because they're biased. If you go back and you say, I'm not going to make the Anthony Richardson mistake again. I saw the tools, bought into his upside, and that didn't work out. When the reality is, even at the time, he's a low, proposition, right? It's like it's probably not going to hit. And he still could. He's still young. But it's probably not going to hit, right? So if at the time you throw Richardson into this high upside bucket, but it's only a 10% probability, well, that's only one data point. Milroe's a similar data point, right? You throw him into the same bucket. He's a high upside proposition. He probably won't hit either, but yeah, it's more palatable in the 3rd round than it is in the 1st round.
And also with Richardson, let's bear in mind that like the Colts' biggest problem, arguably, has not necessarily been his inconsistent play. It's the fact that he's been hurt half of his career so far. Like at least 50% of Richardson currently being a quote unquote bust is the fact that he's been hurt almost all the time, and they can't rely on him starting, let alone figure out how much better he can get. So even if he didn't get any better at all, it's like that's part of it. Is he going to get hurt or not? So I think it's worth rolling I don't have a ton of confidence that Jalen Milroe is going to end up being, an NFL starter or look good or develop or fix the weak elements of his game. But I'm absolutely willing to roll the dice in, the 3rd or 4th round relative to the other quarterbacks available.
The hand size discussion, by the way, too, to me, that's a little double counting because that shows up in accuracy. That shows in his ability to grip the ball, rip it, and put it where he wants. And that potentially gets worse in bad weather. I think that is a factor, but it shows up in his accuracy. The other thing that isn't really stereotypical here, you mentioned, hey, he'll go through reads. You're right. He hits some backside reads. I think he sees the open seam route and he rips it, and he does some good stuff there. I think he's very inconsistent outside of structure, right? So and this reminds me of Marcus Mariota. Specifically, Mariota was a very athletic quarterback, but I don't think he had good playmaking feel outside the pocket. And I think that was one of the hindrances to Mariota. Stylistically, if he could have been, as an athletic quarterback, if he made more plays outside of structure or just made better plays, he would have been that much better. Milroe's inconsistent there, right? You'll see him make a throw, but his accuracy is bad on the run. He had play, I think it was Tennessee, where he took an intentional grounding where he kind of ran into the end zone. Like, I don't think his playmaking passing instincts are good. His playmaking running instincts are good. So passing, not good. Running is good. So that's another issue that I have with Milroe. So his accuracy is inconsistent both inside the pocket and outside, but also his decision-making outside the pocket is pretty poor. I'm going to quote, there's a Family Guy line where they make fun of Tim McCarver, former baseball announcer, and they're making fun of his ability to, I don't know, say weird stuff. But they say it's something like, as bad as the Yankees were in the first half of this game, that's how as bad as they've been now. And so that was the Tim McCarver line. That's me describing Jalen Milroe as good as he was in the first half of Georgia. That's how as bad as he's been against Tennessee. So the inconsistencies in Jalen Milroe's game, the first half of Georgia, I know our friend Dane Brugler was talking about it. That's first round tape is what he was saying live on the air. He was carrying Bama. They were up 24-0, whatever it was. It was ridiculous. Run game, throwing it, everything. But he was awful in this Tennessee game. It was like everything showed up, and there's a few other games like that too. So the inconsistency of Jalen Milroe is a massive issue, but I think you build a run game around him, pray and hope that the accuracy gets better, and that's the developmental aspect of Jalen Milroe's game.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.